with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, whether or not planting is going to get disrupted or not. I don't know whether the Ukrainians, for that matter, or even the Russians are going to be able to continue with business as usual when situation on the ground. I mean, there's shells flying. I mean, there's a war going on there. How are they going to plant this season?
No, you're absolutely right. For Russia, I don't think it will be an issue. For Ukraine, it definitely will be an issue. Large parts of eastern Ukraine, which are under conflict, will more than eastern Ukraine's under conflict now. But you see spring plantings meant to start happening in the next couple of months. And if there's labor shortages, which there are already, there's going to be diesel shortages. There's just not going to be the possibility possibly to plant as much as they would have intended, and nowhere near. If this continues escalating, if it continues going, this conflict, there's definitely going to be issues with planting in Ukraine. And it just means that moving through this year and even into next year, we're going to have issues with supply around the world.
So let's talk about that. I mean, if and when they do manage to plant, right, wheat, corn, I mean, they grow, but they don't grow overnight. That's one thing I want to point out. So there's that time or growth lag. Backing it up a bit, what we first started talking to you about, Sri, about the case of inventories, the International Grains Council, when you put the European Union, Russia, the U.S., Canada, Ukraine, Argentina, Australia, Kazakhstan together, we're talking about only 1/5 of global inventories able to feed the world for 27 days. When you take Russia and Ukraine out of that mix, there's only enough stock to feed the world for 21 days. This is a crisis, is it not?
Well, those metrics particular I haven't seen. What I have seen is if you look at what are stocks doing outside of the Black Sea. So let's assume we can't get wheat out of the Black Sea. What about stocks in all the other key exporting countries? So you go Australia, Argentina, Canada, Europe, America. What's happening there? And if you compare current ending stocks as forecasted by the USDA, they're 31% below the 5-year average. So it's substantial. There's been issues coming into this crisis, and now they're just going to get exacerbated.
Dennis, so what are your forecasts telling us? How much more upside is there to prices? Does this situation and shortages get worse from here? And what does it imply for prices?
Well, there's a couple of interesting things to look at here. If we look at Chicago Board of Trade, we were forecasting them to increase possibly even another 16% from where they are right now. But that was of the assumption that we're going to get to July, the key harvest window for the Black Sea. And that's when prices would really skyrocket, because that's when the world relies on Black Sea wheat. But what we've seen is Chicago Board of Trade futures absolutely skyrocket in a matter of a week and a half to where we thought it would only get to in July. And the interesting thing to look at here is if you look at cash prices, they haven't gone up 60%. This is the physical cash prices. In the US, they're up around 34%. In Australia, they're only up 10%. In Argentina, 18 to 20%. And in Europe, 25%. So these futures are likely being fueled by speculative fund activity, exacerbating what the fundamentals currently support in reality in prices. And there's a disconnect already happening between futures and what's happening in the physical cash market. Of course, this happens during crisis, and it's happening now.